All right, let's talk about something that secretly runs your life. I'm serious. It's the reason why the third slice of pizza just doesn't hit the same as the first. It's why diamonds cost a fortune. And believe it or not, it's at the heart of huge debates about taxes and the minimum wage. We're going to dive deep into something called the Law of Diminishing Marginal Utility. And we're also going to find out where this supposedly fundamental law just completely falls apart.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First up, the pizza problem. Trust me, you'll get it instantly. Then we'll get a little more formal and define the actual law. After that, we'll look at how it plays out in the real world with pricing, policies, and some weird paradoxes. Then, the fun part. We'll see where the law breaks. And finally, we'll wrap it all up by looking beyond just, buying stuff. All right, first up, the pizza problem. We're going to start with a scenario that I'm willing to bet every single one of us has lived through. It's the perfect way to build up our gut feeling for what is, seriously, one of the biggest ideas in all of economics.
So, just imagine this for a second. You are absolutely starving. It's been a long day, you haven't eaten, and then there it is, a whole pizza just for you. Hot, cheesy, smells incredible. It's that very first bite we're going to be talking about. Okay, that first slice, it's heaven, right? Pure, cheesy bliss. The satisfaction is just off the charts. The second slice comes along, and yeah, it's still really, really good. But then the third slice, it's just okay, isn't it? Your hunger is pretty much gone. By the time you're staring down that fifth slice, you're not feeling blissful anymore, you're feeling regret. The joy you get from each new slice isn't just getting smaller, it's basically vanishing. And right there, in that simple, relatable feeling, that's the entire law in a nutshell. Okay, so we've all felt it. We have the intuition. Now let's put some structure around it. How does this simple pizza experience get turned into a formal economic rule? A rule that actually helps people predict how we behave. Time to go from that gut feeling to the actual definition.
So, that feeling of satisfaction or happiness you get from something, economists have a word for it: utility. It's just a fancy term for the want-satisfying power of a thing. And to measure it, they came up with this idea of utils. It's just a hypothetical unit, like points in a game. So that first incredible slice of pizza, maybe that gives you, say, 20 utils. But that fifth, regret-filled slice, maybe that's only worth 1 or 2 utils.
And the guy who really nailed this down was Alfred Marshall, a giant in the world of economics. He put it like this, and the key word, the absolute most important word in his whole definition, is additional. Economists call this marginal. So we're not talking about your total happiness. We're talking about the little extra bit of happiness you get from just one more of whatever it is.
Okay, let's look at some actual numbers. It makes it super clear. We'll swap out pizza for apples here. Now, look at that marginal utility column. That's the important one. The first apple, boom, 20 utils of satisfaction. Awesome. The second, still good, 15 utils. But you can see what's happening, right? It's dropping with each apple. Now look over at total utility. It's still going up, but slower and slower, right until it hits its peak at that fifth apple. And if you plot those numbers on a graph, you get this beautiful, clean curve. This is the marginal utility curve. And you can see it plain as day, that steep downward slope. It's all downhill. Right at 5 apples, it hits 0. That's your saturation point. You literally get 0 extra satisfaction from one more apple. And then, look what happens with the 6th apple. The line goes negative. That's what economists call disutility. At this point, eating another apple actually makes you feel worse. You've gone from satisfaction to suffering. Now, here's a little bit of the fine print. For this law to work so perfectly, like in the chart, economists have to set up a few ground rules. First, all the units have to be the same. Every apple is just as crisp and juicy as the last. You have to eat them one after another. No big breaks. Your personal tastes can't suddenly change. And you, the consumer, are assumed to be a rational person, just trying to get the most happiness you can. If you break any of these rules, the law gets a little messy. So, okay, this is a neat theory. But here's the thing. It is not just some dusty idea in a textbook. This law has huge, massive consequences in the real world. It explains weird puzzles, it tells companies how to price their products, and it's even at the center of some really big political debates. You want a perfect example? Let's talk about the water-diamond paradox. This one stumped even brilliant thinkers like Adam Smith. Think about it. Water is absolutely essential for life. We die without it. And yet, it's super cheap. Diamonds, on the other hand, are basically shiny rocks. You don't need them at all, but they're insanely expensive. What gives? Well, it's all about marginal utility. Because there's so much water around, the satisfaction you get from one more glass of it is pretty low. But because diamonds are so rare, the satisfaction, the marginal utility, of getting just one more is incredibly high. It turns out prices aren't set by total usefulness, they're set by that marginal value. And businesses get this. They live and breathe this stuff. You see it everywhere. Ever see a buy one, get one half off deal? That's diminishing marginal utility in action. They know the second item isn't worth as much to you as the first, so they have to drop the price to convince you to buy it. It's also why your favorite restaurant doesn't just sell one thing. They know you'll get tired of pizza eventually, so they add salads and pasta to the menu to keep your satisfaction high with something new. But it goes way beyond just shopping. This law gets pulled into some of the biggest, most high-stakes political conversations we have. For instance, based on this very principle, some really well-known economists, we're talking Nobel Prize winners, have argued that the ideal top tax rate could be something like 73%. Now, hold on. What's the logic there? Well, the economic argument, and I want to be clear, this is the economic argument, applies the exact same law to money itself. The idea is that an extra dollar means a whole lot less to someone who's already a billionaire than it does to someone who's struggling to pay rent. The utility of that last dollar is lower for the wealthy person. So the theory goes you can tax that dollar at a higher rate to fund public services without really denting the higher earner's quality of life. Okay, let's look at another really contentious issue, the minimum wage. We can use the same kind of thinking. This table shows us a super simplified restaurant. The owner is going to keep hiring people as long as the extra money a new worker brings in, that's the marginal revenue, is more than what it costs to pay them, the marginal cost. So before the wage hike, you see they hire 10 workers. Revenue and cost are perfectly balanced. But then a minimum wage increase happens, and the marginal cost goes up. All of a sudden, at 10 workers, they're losing money on that person. To get back to breaking even, the new sweet spot is 8 workers. Now, this is a simplified model, and it's a huge debate, but it shows you exactly how this marginal thinking is central to these real-world business decisions. So far, this law seems pretty solid, right? It explains why we stop eating pizza, how companies price things, even how governments think about taxes. But what if it's not the whole story? Now we're going to go looking for the cracks. Let's see where this powerful idea completely falls apart. Let's step away from buying and eating stuff for a second. What happens when we look at something like sports? Suddenly, the whole logic gets turned on its head. For an athlete, scoring a point doesn't make them want to score the next point less. No way. It does the opposite. It fuels them. The desire just grows. I mean, just think about Michael Jordan's legendary flu game. The guy is visibly sick, he's exhausted, he should barely be standing. By the logic of diminishing returns, every basket should have felt harder and less satisfying. But that's not what happened at all, is it? The more he scored, the more intense he got. Every single point became more meaningful, not less. His motivation, his utility, wasn't going down. It was skyrocketing. It was driven by something completely different: winning, legacy, sheer force of will. And that right there reveals the big twist. We have to think about 2 different kinds of utility. There's the utility you get from consumption, eating another slice of pizza. That definitely diminishes. But then there's the utility you get from achievement, scoring another point, building a business, creating art. That kind of utility, it often escalates. The more you succeed, the more you want to succeed. So after all that, what's the big picture? What are we supposed to take away from this? Well, it's clear we need a much more sophisticated way of looking at what really makes us tick. Let's boil it down. The law of diminishing marginal utility? It's a fantastic tool, absolutely essential for understanding how we act as consumers. It helps explain pricing, and it gives us a framework for policy debates. But, and this is the crucial part, it is not a law of human motivation. It just breaks down when you talk about things like achievement, purpose, and psychology. The takeaway isn't that the law is useless. It's that we're so much more complicated than just simple consumers. And that leaves us with one final big question to chew on. Once you see the limits of this law, you start to see the line where clean economic models end and the messy, beautiful, irrational reality of human drive begins. So think about it. What in your life follows this law? And more importantly, what doesn't? What's driven not by less satisfaction, but by a hunger for more?